The air in the courtroom gallery is thick, a stagnant heat rising from the hushed crowd. I sit straight, hands clasped so tightly my knuckles are white bone under skin. Across the aisle, just a few rows up, his shoulders are rigid, that familiar set I used to find comforting, now a source of cold, sharp pain. He doesn't look back. He's focused on the woman beside him, the one with the perfectly angled chin and eyes that dart, restless, calculating. Her lawyer is speaking a low, smooth drone laying out assets, liabilities, projections, boutique revenue, inventory value, the cost of the recent, extensive renovations. $2 million. The number hangs in the air, heavy, suffocating. It's my number. My life. Poured into her dream, her gilded cage. I watch his face, waiting for a flicker, a tell anything. There is nothing but that stubborn, blind loyalty directed at her. The lawyer finishes. My lawyer stands slow, deliberate. He doesn't look at them. He looks at the judge, then briefly, directly at me. A silent acknowledgment. This is it. The air feels thin now. Every breath is a struggle against the weight of this room, this moment, years converging on this single point. My past, my future, distilled into a ledger, a legal argument, a judgment. The silence stretches, taut as a wire about to snap. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. My life wasn't extraordinary.
It was built, piece by piece.
Like a coral reef, slow, invisible growth beneath the surface. 20 years. 20 years of early mornings, late nights, making the calls, hitting the targets, navigating the corporate sharks. 20 years of socking away every extra dime, every bonus, every raise, half of every tax refund. It went into the fund. My retirement fund. $2 million. It wasn't just money. It was freedom. It was the promise of a future where I wasn't beholden to anyone, where I could finally breathe. It was the sun on a porch I hadn't bought yet, the books I'd finally have time to read, the quiet hum of a life earned, not given. It was the security I'd built for myself, brick by painstaking brick, in a world that offered none for free. He knew about it, of course. My husband, Mark. We'd planned for it, in vague, comfortable terms. Our future. A shared horizon. He had his own career, his own investments, his own trajectory. We kept things separate, mostly. Our salaries went into joint accounts for bills, daily life, but our serious savings, the long-term stuff, we managed individually. It felt modern. Independent. Safe. We had our routines. Dinner together most nights, the same easy rhythm. Weekend trips sometimes.
He was
presentable. Kind in his way. A little distant maybe, preoccupied, but who wasn't these days? Life was busy. My focus was on the work, on building that reef, making sure the foundation was solid. The money was the metric, the quiet score I kept. It grew, steadily, a comforting digital number on a screen. $2 million. A solid wall between me and uncertainty. That was my normal. A quiet confidence built on 2 decades of sheer, grinding effort. A life constructed, meticulously, around the bedrock of financial independence. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. It was safe. Or so I believed. The email arrived on a Tuesday. Not for me. For Mark. He left his laptop open, a rare oversight. A subject line caught my eye, something about renovation invoice approval odd. He wasn't renovating anything. Curiosity, a small, insignificant flicker, led me to click. The invoice was detailed. Marble countertops, custom fixtures, bespoke shelving units. For a commercial property. Not ours. The address was listed. Downtown. The name of the business wasn't his. It was Elegance Et Pearls.
A boutique.
I'd seen it. Passed it 100 times. Never gone in. It seemed fussy. The invoice was substantial. 6 figures. Approved.
Paid.
With funds routed from somewhere. My stomach did a slow, cold flip. It wasn't the money yet. It was the secrecy. The invoice led to bank statements. Not our joint accounts. An account I didn't recognize. But the transfers, they were unmistakable. Large sums. Frequent. Originating from my retirement fund. The code was familiar. My investment account number. The one tied to the 2 million. The world tilted. The numbers blurred. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a simple error. It was deliberate.
Million. Gone.
Redirected. Into this account. And then to the boutique.
Élégance et perles.
And the owner's name on the invoice? Genevieve Dubois. A name I didn't know. But a quick search led to photos. Her. The woman in the courtroom. Genevieve. The mistress. The pieces slammed together with brutal force. Not just an affair. Not just a betrayal of vows. A calculated theft. My money. My freedom. Used to build her world. My $2 million transmuted into marble and bespoke shelves for another woman's shop. The shock was a physical blow. Air left my lungs. The room spun. The quiet hum of my built life, replaced by a deafening roar of disbelief and pain. The first instinct was denial. It had to be a mistake. An elaborate phishing scam? A hacking? My hands shook as I called the investment firm. Their confirmation was polite, professional, utterly devastating. The transfers were initiated from my account, yes. Authorized, yes. By a user with access, yes. Everything was done correctly from their perspective. The paper trail was clean. Except it led straight to a betrayal so profound it felt like fiction. I tried talking to Mark. Tried is the operative word. I waited until he came home, the laptop still pulsing with its terrible secret between us. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I was too numb. I just held up the invoice, the bank statements.
Asked.
Quietly at first. His face went white. Then defensive. Then
Cold.
he didn't deny it. Couldn't. The proof was right there. He just deflected. Excuses tumbled out, weak, transparent. Investments, opportunities, temporary reallocation, lies. They were thin, pathetic attempts to cover the abyss that had opened between us. I brought up Genevieve. He shut down. The lines around his mouth tightened. He wouldn't talk about her. Wouldn't talk about the boutique. Just kept circling back to the money, minimizing it, calling it a loan, saying he'd make it back, make it back. He'd stolen my future, my security, the very foundation of my independence. The conversation went nowhere. It dissolved into a suffocating silence punctuated by his averted gaze and my own rising nausea. I couldn't stay in the same room. I couldn't breathe the same air. That first night, I slept on the sofa, the printed statements clutched in my hand like a shield against the invading cold. The house felt alien, filled with the ghosts of a life that had never been real. Everything I thought I knew, every shared glance, every quiet evening, was tainted, rewritten by this monstrous act. The man I married, the man I trusted implicitly with my present and future, had systematically dismantled the bedrock of my security, not just for himself, but for her. The days that followed were a blur of cold dread and rising panic. I delved deeper, hired a forensic accountant, watched in horror as the money trail became a superhighway, leading from my account directly to Genevieve Dubois's business accounts. Not just for the initial renovations. Ongoing transfers. My retirement fund was bankrolling her entire operation. Rent, inventory, payroll. Every sale she made, every dress she sold, every pearl necklace fastened around a customer's neck was subsidized by my stolen future. Mark remained distant, sullen. He barely spoke. He still didn't grasp the magnitude of what he'd done, or perhaps he simply didn't care about the impact on me. He seemed more concerned with the disruption to his own life, the fact that I knew that the secret was out. Genevieve remained a phantom presence, the recipient of my stolen life savings, living a reality funded by my years of sacrifice. I drove past the boutique. It looked exactly as the invoice described. Polished, elegant, expensive. A shrine built with my broken dreams. The window displays mocked me. The mannequins seemed to smirk. Inside, I imagined Genevieve, surrounded by luxurious fabrics, running her fingers over smooth countertops, entirely oblivious, or perhaps entirely aware of the true cost of her success. The anger started to simmer, low and dangerous. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was the audacity, the casual cruelty, the way they had built their happiness on the ruins of mine. Every interaction with Mark was a fresh cut. He still spoke of US, of working through this, while refusing to acknowledge the depth of his betrayal or the woman he was still clearly prioritizing. He couldn't see past his own immediate discomfort to the gaping wound he had inflicted on me. He acted like I was overreacting to a minor financial misstep, not the calculated dismantling of my entire future by the person who was supposed to protect it. The sheer, arrogant blindness of it fueled the fire inside me. Sitting across from the lawyer, surrounded by stacks of paper, the cold truth solidified. Getting the money back directly from Mark seemed impossible. He was evasive, potentially hiding assets, dragging his feet. Divorce was inevitable, yes, but a divorce settlement takes time, leaves assets vulnerable, and doesn't guarantee the return of my specific funds, the ones he'd plundered. The forensic accountant laid out the flow of money, undeniable, indisputable. My funds went into her business. The law followed the money. The lawyer, a woman with eyes like chips of ice and a mind like a steel trap, outlined the strategy. We wouldn't just sue Mark. We would sue Genevieve Dubois. Or rather, we would sue her business, Elegance E.T. Pearls. Under various legal principles, unjust enrichment, fraudulent transfer, constructive trust, we could argue that my funds were directly traceable to the business's assets and improvements. The renovated boutique itself was, in part, built with my money. The inventory purchased with my money. Her entire enterprise was tainted, funded by theft. Targeting the business hit them both. It targeted the asset Mark had poured my money into, the tangible symbol of their betrayal. It forced Genevieve to defend herself, to account for the money she had received, knowingly or unknowingly, though the scale suggested the former. This wasn't just about retrieving funds anymore. It was about dismantling the structure they had built together, brick by brick, using my life savings. It was a complex, aggressive strategy. It would be costly. It would be public. It would turn the tables. Instead of just trying to claw money back from a slippery Mark, I would be going directly after her, and the object of his illicit affections, the boutique itself. It was a bold move, a terrifying move, but it felt
right.
A cold sense of purpose settled over me. The hurt was still there, a deep ache, but it was hardening into resolve. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a force. The legal battle was a siege. Their lawyers fought back, hard. They tried to paint me as a disgruntled wife, exaggerating, misinterpreting legitimate business transactions. They argued the funds were a loan from Mark, not a direct transfer of my assets. They claimed Genevieve had no knowledge of the origin of the money, portraying her as an innocent business owner caught in the crossfire of a marital dispute. It was infuriating. Every deposition, every filing, every motion was a fresh assault. They dragged my name through the mud, questioned my understanding of my own finances, tried to discredit the forensic accounting. Mark stayed in the background, a shadow presence. He wouldn't testify against Genevieve, wouldn't admit the truth of where the money came from. He was actively, if passively, obstructing justice, protecting her with the silence he owed me. My world shrunk to the confines of legal documents and strategy meetings. The $2 million, the symbol of my freedom, was now the tether binding me to their sordid reality. Friends offered support, but no one could truly understand the specific, icy isolation of having your life's work stolen by your spouse and used to fund his mistress's dream. The stress was immense. Sleep was elusive. My body ached with tension. There were moments, dark hours in the middle of the night, when doubt crept in. Was it worth it? Could I win? What if they succeeded in blocking the claims, hiding the assets, walking away with my money still lining their pockets, still propping up that elegant facade? The thought was unbearable. Losing the money was one thing. Letting them get away with it, seeing that boutique continue to thrive on my ruin, was another. The crisis wasn't just financial anymore. It was existential. It threatened to break my spirit entirely. Everything felt fragile. My resolve wavered. The cost felt too high. The fight too draining. I was losing myself in the bitterness, becoming defined by the betrayal. Then came a turning point, small but significant. It was late, another night poring over legal briefs, highlighting damning passages from Genevieve's own financial records, subpoenaed bank statements showing the direct ingress of my funds. My lawyer had sent a note. Their latest offer is insulting. They're hoping you'll tire out. The words echoed in the silent room. That was their strategy. Wear me down. Exhaust my resources. Break my will. Let them win through attrition. I looked at the numbers again. The $2 million. 20 years. Every sacrifice. Every skipped vacation. Every extra hour at the office. Every penny saved. It wasn't just money in an account. It was my life force, crystallized into capital. And they were betting I would just give up on it. Let them keep it. Let them keep the boutique, the life built on my foundation. Something hardened inside me. It wasn't anger anymore. It was colder, steely, determination. I wouldn't tire out. I wouldn't break. They had underestimated me. They saw a wronged wife, emotional, vulnerable. They didn't see the woman who had built that $2 million from nothing but grit and relentless focus. They didn't see the core of iron beneath the hurt. This wasn't just a legal battle anymore. It was a reclamation.
A stand.
For myself. For every woman who's had her worth minimized, her efforts dismissed, her security stolen by those she trusted most. I would not let them win. I would not let them keep a single cent of what was mine. I would see this through, to the bitter end if necessary. The fear didn't vanish, but it was pushed aside, replaced by a quiet, unwavering resolve. The armor went on piece by piece. The vulnerability was locked away. It was time to fight, not just hard.
Smart.
Relentlessly. The climax arrived not with a bang, but with the rustle of paper and the measured cadence of judicial pronouncements. We were back in the courtroom, the same heavy air, the same rigid shoulders across the aisle. Days of arguments, witness testimonies, expert reports culminating in this moment. My lawyer laid out the final points, tracing the money one last time, indisputable, undeniable. My funds, into Mark's temporary account, then directly into Genevieve Dubois's business accounts, timed precisely with the renovation invoices, timed precisely with inventory purchases. The sheer volume. The lack of any other plausible explanation for sudden, massive influxes of cash into a small boutique's coffers. He presented the legal arguments, clear, cold, logical. Unjust enrichment. Constructive trust. The legal principle that declared the assets purchased with my money were, in the eyes of the law, still rightfully mine. The judge listened impassive. Genevieve's lawyer made a final, desperate plea, reiterating the loan narrative, portraying Genevieve as an unwitting recipient. It felt weak, hollow. The paper trail was too loud. Then the judge spoke. Her voice was calm, clear. She reviewed the evidence, acknowledged the complexity of the marital context but cut directly to the financial core. The funds originated from my separate, pre-existing investment account. The transfers were directed by Mark, yes, but the final recipient and beneficiary was demonstrably Elegance E.T. Pearls, Genevieve Dubois's business. The sheer quantity and timing of the transfers directly correlated with the business's significant, rapid expansion and renovation. The judge concluded the evidence was compelling. She found in my favor. She declared that the assets of Elegance E.T. Pearls to the value of the traceable funds, which amounted to just over $2 million including interest and costs, were held in constructive trust for me. The legal mechanism wasn't just a judgment against Genevieve. It was an order. The boutique, its inventory, its fixtures, its bank accounts, assets equivalent to my stolen funds were now legally encumbered, subject to liquidation or transfer to satisfy the judgment. The words were technical, but the meaning was brutal in its simplicity. My money, poured into her boutique, meant the boutique, or assets of equivalent value, now belonged to me. The room was silent save for the judge's receding voice. I sat there, absorbing the reality. I had won. Not just against Mark in some hypothetical divorce settlement, but against her. I had gone directly after the symbol of their betrayal, the gilded cage built with my stolen life, and the court had handed it back to me. Or rather, ordered it dismantled and returned. My gaze went, involuntarily, to Mark. He was looking at the judge, his face slack with disbelief. He hadn't seen it coming. He thought, perhaps, that once the money was spent, sunk into a business, it was gone untraceable, safe from my reach, safe with her. He thought I might sue him for divorce, maybe get some financial compensation, but he never anticipated that I would use the law to follow the money directly to Genevieve, and that the consequence would be the destruction of her business, the very thing he had sacrificed my future to build. He hadn't just stolen from me. He had, through his own actions, led to the downfall of the woman he had betrayed me for. His eyes finally found mine across the aisle. For the first time since I'd discovered the theft, I saw something raw and unguarded flicker in them. Not regret, not apology, but pure, unadulterated shock. He saw not just his defeat, but Genevieve's ruin, directly caused by the legal action I had taken, targeting the asset he had funded with my money. The full, devastating irony seemed to hit him like a physical blow. His face crumpled. He made a strange, choked sound. Genevieve turned to him, her perfect composure shattering, eyes wide with alarm. His hand went to his chest. His breath hitched. And then, in the dead silence of the courtroom, Mark collapsed. Not a slow slide. A sudden, jarring fall, hitting the floor with a heavy thud that echoed in the stunned room. Genevieve cried out. People scrambled. My lawyer put a hand on my arm, a quiet anchor. I just watched. Watched the chaos erupt around the man who had taken everything from me, now lying in a heap, brought down not by my tears or my pleas, but by the cold, logical mechanism of the law he thought he could circumvent, and the unintended consequence of his own calculated betrayal. The victory felt hollowed out, bittersweet. He had lost his mistress and her business, funded by my money, in the very lawsuit I brought because he stole from me. The circle was complete, in the most devastating way. The aftermath is quiet. The sudden drama of Mark's collapse cleared the courtroom faster than any gavel. Paramedics came. I didn't go near him. Genevieve was frantic, shouting his name. The last I saw, he was being wheeled out on a stretcher, his face ashen. I heard later it was a stress-induced cardiac event. Non-fatal, but serious enough to land him in the hospital. Genevieve was left to deal with the legal fallout and the reality of the judgment. My lawyer handled the details. The boutique's assets were evaluated. The inventory, the fixtures, the leasehold improvements built with my $2 million. It was a messy, clinical process. She tried to fight it, of course. But the court order was clear. The boutique was liquidated. Inventory sold off. Fixtures stripped out. The elegant facade came down, piece by painstaking piece, until it was just an empty shell. My money, reclaimed in the form of auctioneers' checks and asset transfers. It wasn't the $2 million back in my retirement account, neat and whole. It was fragmented, a collection of sums pieced together from the remnants of her failed enterprise. Emotionally, it's a strange space. There was no triumphant moment. No grand, satisfying revenge.
Just
emptiness. A profound sense of loss, not just of the money, but of the life I thought I had, the future I believed in. Justice was served, yes. They didn't get away with it. The boutique, the symbol of their betrayal, was gone, directly because I followed the money he stole from me. The plot twist was in the consequence. He never imagined that by funding her, he would enable my legal case to destroy her business. He thought he was hurting me and helping her. Instead, he hurt me and ended up destroying her by giving me the means to fight back so effectively. The satisfaction is cold, intellectual. The emotional cost was immense. The marriage is over, of course. Irrevocably shattered. Mark is recovering. I haven't seen him. I don't know if I ever will. Genevieve is gone. The boutique space is empty now, a silent monument to a betrayal built on marble and lies. I have the money back, mostly. Or its equivalent. Enough to rebuild. To start again. The foundation was cracked, yes, but not destroyed. The future I envisioned, the quiet porch, the books, the freedom. It feels different now. Tainted by the struggle, the pain, the knowledge of what people are capable of. But maybe it's stronger now, too. Built on a bedrock not just of financial security, but of resilience. Of knowing I can face the worst betrayal, the deepest theft, and still stand.
Still fight.
Still reclaim what is mine. The scar is there, a permanent reminder. But it doesn't define me. The $2 million was a symbol of my independence. Losing it and fighting to get it back taught me that my independence wasn't just in the numbers. It was in me, all along. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear your version. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these to life.